Soumya Mataji, you want to start?
यस्तु सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मनि एवानुपश्यति सर्वभूतेषु चात्मानं ततो न विजुगुप्सते यत्तु सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मनि एवानुपश्यति सर्वभूतेषु चात्मानं ततो न विजुगुप्सते यस्तु सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मनि एवानुपश्यति सर्वभूतेषु चात्मानं ततो न विजुगुप्सते. Translation: He who systematically sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being.
Thank you, Mataji. Devansh Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyevanupashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. He who systematically sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anyone or anything.
Yes. Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Translation: He who systematically sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. Prabhuji, you're on mute.
Okay. Thank you. So last week we studied the actually translation, and we also studied first I think three to four paragraphs. So where we discuss actually so translation basically actually talks about the Mahabhagavad, right? The Uttamadhikari, and in the purport to understand actually the position of Uttamadhikari, Srila Prabhupada actually also gave the description of the what is Kanishadhikari, what is Madhyamadhikari, and in relation to that, what is a Uttamadhikari, right? So we discussed all that in the last week. So I think we stopped, we finished number paragraph 4, and then we're starting from that point onwards. It is clearly mentioned in this verse, okay? So I need a volunteer to read. Anyone? Okay, yeah. Continue, Soumya Mataji.
It is clearly mentioned in the sixth mantra that one should observe or systematically see. This means that one must follow the previous acharyas, the perfected teachers. Anupashyati is the exact Sanskrit word used in this connection. Anu means to follow, and pashyati means to observe. Thus, the word anupashyati means that one should not see things as he does with the naked eye, but should follow it. Sorry, but should follow the previous acharyas. Due to material defects, the naked eye cannot see anything properly. One cannot see properly unless one has heard from a superior source, and the highest source is the Vedic wisdom, which is spoken by the Lord Himself. Vedic truths are coming in disciplic succession from the Lord to Brahma, from Brahma to Narad, from Narad to Vyas, and from Vyas to his many disciples. Formerly, there was no need to record the messages of the Vedas because people in the earlier ages were more intelligent and had sharper memories. They could follow the instructions simply by hearing once from the mouth of a bona fide spiritual master.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. So here, what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that he explains the meaning of anupashyati, right? So anupashyati means actually to follow or to observe systematically. So it's very important actually, as Srila Prabhupada says, that just seeing with the naked eye, is not perfect, because normally in present world, normally people have this tagline, seeing is believing, but that's not very perfect, right? So as we previously study, even in the introduction, I guess, we talked about actually our senses, imperfect senses. So our senses are defective, right? So our eyes are also, they're not perfect, they're defective, right? They cannot see all things as they are. And one has to see with the knowledge as well, right? So that point came here that Srila Prabhupada says that we have to follow in the footsteps of previous acharyas, or we have to follow their instructions. Means we have to actually gain that knowledge from our parampara, and we see with that knowledge, right? So this is also called Shastra Chakshu, right? So we are actually studying the Shastras as being taught by Srila Prabhupada and previous acharyas, right? So we study in the same mood, and we actually try to actually understand and gain that knowledge, and then we actually, with that knowledge, we see it, properly. Because seeing is believing in this material world, that our senses, or especially eyes, can only see a limited things. I think Ambrish Prabhu also, in many classes, he explained the difference between actually our eyes as a human being, compared to actually the living beings in the heavenly planets or demigods, right? So their eyes are much more, I think they're more perfect than us. They can actually see more colors, than us, what we can do. So certainly there is a difference. So just actually seeing with the material eyes is not sufficient. It's not perfect. We're always going to misunderstood things. Even actually, means you must have heard about this before regarding the murugja, right? You have heard about murugja. So the deer, in the desert, when it's thirsty, is looking for the water. So as you see, that in actually it is a very hot day in a desert. At a distance, you always feel like there is water. Something is shining, so it looks like water. So deer is running after that, thinking that there is water, and he keep running all day, but he never get to that point, and he gets so thirsty, and finally probably dies. So seeing is believing is not really perfect method. So for us human being, actually, we are much more intelligent than deer anyway. So we have to use, our intelligence. We have to use the actually knowledge that we can learn from our actually spiritual master parampara. So we have to see with the actually knowledge, or what we call is a shastra chakshu. And also Srila Prabhupada made this point here where he says that one cannot see properly unless one has heard from the superior source, and the highest source is the Vedic wisdom, which is spoken by Lord himself. Vedic truth are coming in a disciplic succession from the Lord to the Brahma, from Brahma to the Narad, and from Narad to Vyas, and from Vyas to his many disciples. So here, actually, the perfect source, is the actually Vedic wisdom. So Vedas are perfect. Vedas is basically means is knowledge, right? And actually, Vedas are compiled by Vasudev, who's incarnation of Krishna himself. In Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Krishna says, Vedesha sarver aham eva vedo, Vedanta kridved vidayeva chaham. So from all the Vedas, I am to be known. In fact, I am the compiler of all the Vedas and knower of all the Vedas, right? So that knowledge coming from Krishna, because Krishna is perfect, that knowledge is perfect. And if you actually following, with a submissive attitude, then we can actually gain that knowledge through our parampara, through our spiritual master, and we can actually perfect our vision. So even in the material world, even in the material, actually, this world, we also see with the knowledge, not just in the actually this spiritual realm. Because as a human being, we have higher intelligence. We can observe things. What is happening around us. So we may be actually there are different human beings. They may be in this living in the same area, in the same planet. They're observing what is going around us. But some people, they're more intelligent. They can see things and they can actually understand how things are actually happening around them. So especially scientists, they actually spend a lot of time observing things, and they actually form the hypothesis, and that's how they actually realize, just like there is Newton's law, right? So Newton, he put his theory of gravity, but I'm pretty sure before Newton, apple tree was there, apple was there, and apple must have fallen many times. But how many people realized it? Even the Raman effect, I was actually thinking about this, that there is theory that why actually sky looks blue, right? Because the light is actually sprayed because of the air molecules. So that was actually theory was already there, but actually this Raman scientist from India, he also actually applied the similar theory to the actually why ocean water was looking blue, right? Initially, it was just believed that because sky is blue and that was just a reflection, but that wasn't true. So water molecule also do the same function. They disperse the light in a different wavelengths, and that makes them a deep blue color. So some people like scientists, they can actually seeing, they're using their intelligence, knowledge. So that is a saying with the knowledge is always perfect, but especially when it's come to actually the Vedic knowledge, it is the most perfect, and we're actually trying to understand Krishna by studying Vedas, and by studying Vedas, Krishna is to be known. And all this knowledge is passed on to us through the disciplic succession, right, as it is stated here. And this another important point. Srila Prabhupada mentioned that formerly there was no need to record messages of Vedas because people in the earlier ages were more intelligent and had a sharper memories. They could follow instruction simply by hearing once from the mouth of bona fide spiritual master. So certainly, they were very intelligent. By just hearing once, they memorize everything, and understand. So in today's world, actually, even if we have been actually told many, many times, still we forget. We discussed this subject matter last week, but when we come to this class, we may be just blank slate again. Even actually we studied, actually we made notes, we studied. Even I am giving class, right? But another 6 months later, if you ask me, I may not remember what I said. So that's why we have to record this, right? So we can actually always go back, and they know that as the yuga progresses, especially Kali Yuga, the people's the intelligence will go down slowly, and they may not remember. That's why Vyas they've compiled, there's written up all the Vedic knowledge, so we can actually take the benefit. But in the previous ages, like the Satya Yuga, people were very, very intelligent. They just listen once and memorize everything. So that I think another important point we have to actually learn. All right, we can continue that. Mataji.
At present, there are many commentaries on the revealed scriptures, but most of them are not in the line of disciplic succession coming from Srila Vyasdev, who originally compiled the Vedic wisdom. The final, most perfect and sublime work by Srila Vyasadeva is Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. There is also the Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken by the Lord himself and recorded by Vyasadeva. These are the most important revealed scriptures, and any commentary that contradicts the principles of the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam is unauthorized. There is complete agreement among the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and no one should try to reach any conclusion about the Vedas without receiving instructions from members of Vyasadeva's disciplic succession, who believe in the personality of Godhead and his diverse energies as they are explained in Sri Isopanishad.
Okay. So here, as it is said, that at present there are many commentaries on the revealed scriptures, but most of them are not in the line of disciplic succession, coming from Srila Vyasadeva, who originally compiled the basic wisdom. So, Srila Prabhupada is talking here. Even you take Bhagavad Gita, for example, there are many commentaries by various authors, even in India. Even before actually Srila Prabhupada published his version, Bhagavad Gita as it is, the Bhagavad Gita is there, and there are many other authors, they try to actually interpret the Bhagavad Gita in their own way. That's why actually, and there is possibility, the person who is actually commenting, if he's not a pure devotee, then there's always chance that he may actually, bring his own thinking or his own agenda while writing a commentaries. So that's why it's very important that actually we follow the scripture that is coming from our bona fide spiritual master. We always stick, for us, we always stick to the Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. That is very important. And Srila Prabhupada says that, I think I remember this, one of the realization I saw in a video Amrish Bhai actually he aired many years ago. That question was asked about Bhagavad Gita, why Srila Prabhupada published his own version, So Prabhupada says that there are many, various, commentaries made by many authors on Bhagavad Gita previously. But Srila Prabhupada says how many devotees that Bhagavad Gita has made, And when you look at actually Srila Prabhupada's, Bhagavad Gita as it is, and Srila Prabhupada's way he preached in the West, across the globe, that actually changed the lives of millions of people now. There are many devotees across the world. So you can actually understand the potency, in Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. And Srila Prabhupada is also named as it is, there is no contamination. There is no actually he's not adding anything from his own mind, He's just translating as it is and giving his actually realization and commentaries. So hearing from a pure source is very important, authoritative source. So our disciplic succession, it has to come through our disciplic succession. So our disciplic succession is Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, right? So coming down from the Lord Brahma himself. So it is in the line of actually bona fide disciplic succession. So the knowledge we are receiving from the Srila Prabhupada is a pure knowledge. And Srila Prabhupada also, in the introduction to the Srimad Bhagavatam, he stated that actually we should not hear the transcendental knowledge from people who are not actually devotees of Krishna, pure devotees of Krishna. So that knowledge is just like a milk touched by a serpent, So when you read the actually introduction, that is clearly mentioned, or you should not hear, Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam from the professional reciters, Bhagavad reciters. They do the Bhagavad Sapta and all that. So if they are not really actually pure devotees or in the line of authorized disciplic succession, then we should not hear, from them. Is again will actually contaminate our minds. So we always stick to our disciplic succession and Srila Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. That is very important. What is the second point here? So there, Srila Prabhupada also mentioned, right, here that final and most perfect sublime work by Srila Prabhupada is Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And there is also Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken by Lord himself. And Srila Prabhupada says that these are most important revealed scripture, and any commentary that contradict the principles of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is unauthorized. So that's very important statement. So the principles given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, those principles are very, very important. So if you read any other commentary and if it contradicts what is given in this actually Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, the basic principles, then it is unauthorized. It is said that you cannot change a principle even while preaching. Sometime you have to make adjustments. Even Srila Prabhupada made many adjustments, but he never changed any principle, the basic principles. And even if it changes, actually principle can be changed, but it's only acharyas can change the principle. Not any ordinary devotees can do that. So Srila Prabhupada made some important changes when he started preaching in the West, but he can do it because he's actually acharya. He's a founder acharya. So he has that authority, but we cannot do this. No, if we are preaching and we come across a situation, so we cannot change the principle to just suit the needs of the people. So we have to actually always refer back to the higher authority. And next statement, there is a complete agreement among the Upanishad, Vedanta Sud, Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is also important statement because all the knowledge given in Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada said there is complete agreement. Knowledge given in all these actually scriptures, they never contradict each other. And that's very important point, right? So when we say Veda, Krishna said, Vedescha sarver aham eva vedo, right? So by studying Upanishad, Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, the ultimate point is to understand Krishna. Krishna is to be known. So we have to understand that point very clearly, because in Vedas there are many other, there is a lot of knowledge given about a lot of other things. Even there is Karmakand process, Jnanakand process. But the ultimate objective is to actually raise the people to the transcendental platform where they can be engaged in a transcendental loving devotional service. And that's how to actually realize Krishna. So if you're not coming to that point, then you are not really understanding the real message of the Vedas. So that's why there is a complete agreement, or there is a complete agreement on the basic principle. So actually the purpose of studying all the scripture is to understand Krishna. So sometime there are, you see people in karma, especially Karmakand and all that, people use that sections of the Vedas for just making a material benefit and all that. So that's not the real purpose of the Vedas. Okay, and next one, Srila Prabhupada said, no one should try to reach any conclusion about the Vedas without receiving instruction from the members of Vyasdev's disciplic succession. So we already discussed that point, right? We have to actually always follow disciplic succession, and we only listen to the authorized commentaries. So we only stick to Srila Prabhupada's, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. We do not want to actually go and actually listen from any unauthorized sources. Especially if they are not in the disciplic succession. Any questions on this? Okay. Continue. Mataji.
According to the Bhagavad Gita, 18.54, only one who is already on the liberated platform, Brahma Bhuta, can become an Uttam Adhikari devotee and see every living being as his own brother. This vision cannot be had by politicians who are always after some material gain. One who imitates the symptoms of an Uttam Adhikari may serve another's outward body for the purpose of fame or material reward, but he does not serve the spirit soul. Such an imitator can have no information of the spiritual world. The Uttamadhikari sees the spirit soul within the material body and serves him as spirit. Thus, the material aspect is automatically served.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So, Srila Prabhupada actually referring here to the Bhagavad Gita verse 18.54. So that is a Brahma Bhuta platform, right? So here it is said, I think that verse, the purport of that verse also gives a lot of information about a Mahabhagavad devotee. So Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Sochati Na Kankshati Samaha Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains the pure devotional service unto me. So it's a similar, actually, meaning given in this translation, what we actually study, the symptoms of the Mahabhagavad. And in the purport, actually, Srila Prabhupada writes this that the devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing for which to lament or desire. Since God is full, the living entity who is engaged in God's service in Krishna consciousness become also full in himself. He is just like a river cleans up all dirty water. Because a pure devotee has no thought other than Krishna. He is naturally always joyful. He does not lament for any material loss or aspire for gain because he is full in the service of the Lord. He has no desire for material enjoyment because he knows that every living entity fragmental part is a fragmental part and parcel of Supreme Lord and therefore eternally servant. He does not see in this material world someone is higher and someone as a lower. Higher and lower positions are ephemeral, and a devotee has nothing to do with ephemeral appearances and disappearances. For him, the stone and gold are of equal value. This is the Brahmabhuta stage. And this stage is attained very easily by a pure devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes a hellish. The idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria, and the senses are like a serpent whose poison teeth are broken. So here, actually, the description of the pure devotee who has attained the Brahmabhuta stage, right? So it's basically the Uttamadhikari, Mahabhagavad devotee, who attains to this platform. He's basically liberated in a liberated stage. So the description are given, because he's not attached to any materialistic things. He does not desire any material things. He does not lament, if he lose anything. So, and he's equally disposed towards all the living entities. So same. Actually, the symptoms described here, what we studied in this purport as well about the Bhagavad Gita, about the Mahabhagavad. Sorry. So, going back to purport, that Srila Prabhupada says that one who is already on a liberated platform can become Uttamadhikari and see every living being as his own brother, right? This vision cannot be had by politicians who are always after some material gain. One who imitates the symptoms of Uttamadhikari may serve another's outward body for the purpose of fame or material reward, but he does not serve the spirit soul. So here, actually, Srila Prabhupada is talking about the people who actually try to imitate that they are the actually pure devotee or Mahabhagavat, And normally, actually, when Srila Prabhupada was present, at that time, even in India, there are some of the politicians, that they may actually try to show themselves to be like a devotee, great devotee, and they try to treat all the people on the same platform, saying that they do not make any discrimination between different castes, they do not make any discrimination between poor and rich and all that. But Srila Prabhupada is saying that actually, if normally this is being done for the purpose of fame and material reward. Politicians normally they try to do these things because the objective is to actually be elected. Right? But are they really concerned about uh, all the living entities and their actually eternal welfare? Srila Prabhupada says that they only serve their outward body, So they try to actually please them, appease them in a different way. But actually, they do not have any information about the spiritual world or the spiritual needs of the spirit soul. So this is very important. You will always come across some people, especially politicians or people who has a higher authority. They may actually act like uttamadhikari or try to be very equally disposed, and try to show themselves that they are actually treating everyone on the same platform and not actually discriminating against anyone. But it's very important to understand what is their real motive is. But actually, the Uttamadhikari, Srila Prabhupada says that he sees the spirit soul within the material body, right? So he's actually saying that within each living entity, there is a soul who's a part and parcel of a Krishna. And actually, Srila Prabhupada says that he serves him as a spirit, So that is very important, aspect to understand here. And thus the material aspect is automatically served. So another point, actually, I think I'm not sure I touched on that point that which is mentioned here, that the similar statement Srila Prabhupada makes in purport, where he says that those who imitate the Uttamadhikari by a sense of oneness or fellowship, but who behave on a bodily platform are actually false philanthropists. So what is this actually, the sense of oneness? So that is also important point, because as I say, the Mahabhagavat, they see everybody equal, So be it actually human being or maybe a dog or a Brahman or even the elephant, they see all of them on a equal platform. They do not discriminate because they're actually seeing the spirit soul within, right? So what we saying here, that all the living entities, they may be equal on a spiritual platform, as a part and parcel of a Krishna. But when we actually talk about the material aspect, because we all born here, we all got different bodies, material bodies, and we have different level of intelligence, So we cannot be actually, we're not exactly equal to each other, right? We're different. Even in this class now, Amrish Prabhu is actually preaching this message. So he's actually teaching everyone, everybody's hearing the same message. But I may understand to a certain point, Parth Prabhu may understand to the another level. The senior devotees might understand to the higher level. So everybody's understanding or level of intelligence is different, right? So materially, we are different. So you can see that even in the actually material world as well, right? In colleges, universities, there are many students, they go and they listen to the same teacher or professor, but some of them, they excel, they are very intelligent, they pass with the higher grade, but some may not. So even we are actually all part and parcel, but on the material platform with the material bodies, we are different. So sometime actually, as it says, the Uttamadhikari, in this material world, in order to preach, like what Srila Prabhupada did, he has to come to the platform of Madhyamadhikari in order to preach, and he has to discriminate, and he has to actually give the actual instruction according to one's own position. He may give us different instruction to me, and he may have a different instruction to another devotee, right? Depending on actually what are our needs, spiritual needs. So we have to understand that, because sometimes people may say, oh, actually Bhagavad Gita says, Vidyavane Sampane Brahmani Gavi Hastini Sunichena Supakecha Pandita Samadarshina. Pandita Samadarshina. We have to actually see everyone on the same level, and we should not discriminate. That is a vision of Mahabhagavat, right? But actually, in order to preach, you have to discriminate. You cannot, say, oh, everyone is equal. Everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada says that if you think like that, Bhagavad Gita also says in chapter 6 that actually the person who is criminal, who has committed many sins, and a saintly person, you should not discriminate between that, thinking on a spiritual platform, just looking at the spirit soul. But in the material world, Prabhupada say, how practical is that? Can we do that? Are we at that platform? We are not. We cannot do that, right? We cannot treat a criminal and a saintly person on the same platform. So that's why, actually, especially when we're talking about preaching, that actually preaching is only done at the Madhyamadikar, because Mahabhagavad devotee, he has this actually universal vision, right? He is actually looking at all the living entities, and he actually sees the spirit soul, sitting there hard, and that's why he's actually equally disposed to all the living entities. But for preaching, one has to come to the Madhyamadikari level, even he is already a pure devotee, and that's what Srila Prabhupada did. So you understand that point, actually? Okay. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or any realizations you want to share? No? Okay. So I think we still have 15 minutes probably. Let's recite the verse and translation one more time, and then we'll take a maybe 10 minutes break. Okay. Okay, maybe. So Mataji, you want to start?
Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupashyate sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupashyate sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Translation. He who systematically sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being.
Thank you, Mataji. Bharat Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I had a doubt here. Srila
Yeah.
Prabhupada translating Atmani as in relation to the Supreme Lord.
Yes.
Atmani, but Atmani does not, is it not Atmani, like more related to us or Atma, like our mind, our soul?
Atmani.
Or yeah.
Sarvani Bhuta Atmani Evanupashyati.
Like Atmanam, still we can be like that, super soul because
Yeah, yeah.
Atmanam. But Atmani, or is there that can be used like referring to the Supreme Lord is my question. Atmani.
So here, if you look at the translation, what it says, he who systemically sees everything in relation to the
Supreme Lord.
Supreme Lord. So Atmani means he's actually here means I'm not actually Sanskrit scholar actually how that is actually translated, but actually when we're talking about Atma, so Atma is in a relationship with the Supreme. That's what I understood. But I think Samrish was there. Maybe he can actually shed more light on it. Sorry, Prabhuji, I'm not really strong on a Sanskrit.
No, I just wanted to that Atma,
Yes.
because Atma also has so many different meanings. Even when we read other shlokas, it means mind also, intelligence also, soul also, body
Yes.
also.
Yes. So actually, means Srila Prabhupada actually when he gives the actually word to word synonyms and even the translation, when you actually study Bhagavad Gita, you may realize that the same word actually that comes in a different verses. Actually, Srila Prabhupada gives a different meaning Even it's a word-to-word translation. In that context, what that mean? So that is what I realized. The same, exactly same word would have completely, not completely, there's a different meaning. And actually, Amrish also highlighted this. Here when actually we learned, the Bhagavad Gita verses. So he always highlight, the same word is mentioned in another verse may actually has given a different meaning. And if you, yeah, and I have also read, actually in it before the other translations of the by other author the same verse. So there is again differences again, but actually Srila Prabhupada's translations, and the word to word synonyms, it makes the most sense how he's translate, and actually it's a complete meaning. So yeah, we can actually, yeah, Prabhuji, is that make sense what I said, Prabhuji?
Yes, yes, yes. Well, basically, as we already discussed when we were starting with Upanishad, that these are very cryptic, and it's
Yeah,
for the Gyanis. They can make any meaning out of it. So, for somebody who's from the Mayavad school or other school, they can derive their own meaning. And
own
Srila
meaning,
Prabhupada
yes.
are giving bhakti meaning. I think that is what is happening here, if I'm right.
Yes, that's right. Because even invocation mantra, Prabhuji, the same what we studied.
Om Purnamada, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so if you actually go word to word, actually there is no direct reference to Krishna there, right? Ishopanishad means, that's why actually it sounds very impersonal, right? If you go by word to word synonyms, but I think I read comment by Srila Prabhupada that actually Upanishad, they talk, they're quite impersonal.
Hmm.
However, how Srila Prabhupada translated, he always translate as a supreme personality of Godhead. Actually, he make the first statement, start with the supreme personality of Godhead. So he removes all the actually doubts, and we are not talking about anybody, anyone impersonal here. So
Yeah.
yes, you're right, Prabhuji, that actually people may derive their own meaning out of it. But and again, it's a Sanskrit, so I'm not authorized to make a comment on that because I never studied Sanskrit as a language. So yes, Prabhuji, but we can actually ask this question to Amrish Prabhu as well. He may be actually able to better
And we
explain.
also read in the purport today that people who are coming in the school of discipline of Ved Vyas, and Ved Vyas is the original compiler of these Upanishads. So we should understand from them what it actually means, rather than going to other, our own
Yes,
concoctions. So yeah, but that is very interesting, Atmani in relation to Supreme Lord. So that's all. Thank you, Prabhu. So
yes.
I'll just say it right now.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. यस्तु सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मनि एवानुपश्यति सर्वभूतेषु चात्मानं ततो न विजुगुप्सते यस्तु सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मनि एवानुपश्यति सर्वभूतेषु चात्मानं ततो न विजुगुप्सते यस्तु सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मनि एवानुपश्यति सर्वभूतेषु चात्मानं ततो न विजुगुप्सते. Translation: He who systematically sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Who's there now? Devansh Mataji is. No. Okay. Mayurish Prabhu, can you hear us?
So I don't think he's in the class.
Okay. Okay. Okay, then we will conclude the class now.
There,
Uh,
Prabhu. There.
is there?
Yeah, he just messaged. Sorry.
Okay. Can you recite the verse, Prabhu, if you're there? Okay, there's not enough bandwidth. Okay, that's fine then. So we'll conclude today's class now. We'll take a break and then we'll come back for the main program. But you still have actually until Wednesday. If you have any burning questions, or if you want to clarify any points, please post those actually questions in our intermediate group, and then we will actually organize accordingly with Amrish Prabhu. Okay, thank you, devotees. Hare Krishna. Jai Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Shila Gurudev ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.